backed by popular demand. This is the TurnbucklePad podcast on YouTube.com. Respect wrestling or get out. Welcome back to the TurnbucklePad podcast. And today we have another ass kicker coming out of North Carolina. You may know her as the Southern SheHulk. Please welcome my guest, Miss Roni Nicole. Thanks for joining the show, ma'am.
Hi, Mike. Thank you so much for having me. It's a real pleasure and honor to be on.
It's great to have you. I was looking through a little bit of your history, and you're one of those people I could see really showing up in the E or TNA or New Japan sometime soon, because some people you see and you can just tell they get it.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. I still have a lot to learn, but I'm hoping that I'm walking the right path and making good decisions.
Well, you're not injured, and you're still working, so I think you're doing something right.
That's true.
So, Roni, when did you get into the business, and why did you get into the business?
Well, it started pretty much when I was young. I was about 8 years of age, and I happened to catch the very first episode of Monday Night Raw, and from that point, it kind of resonated with me. I had a very active and wild imagination, and it was just something that part of my mind really connected with, and from that point, I just thought to always try to find a way to build myself into something that would somehow, unbeknownst to me, later aid me in wrestling. And being to, simply just by happenstance, I was doing semi-professional cheerleading at the time. The team that I was working with was going through a transition, and I was looking for someone else to cheer, and I happened to come across a advertisement for female athletes, which I mistakenly thought meant we're looking for cheerleaders, when in fact it was someone trying to start a female wrestling promotion. And so from that point, I commenced my training, and I never looked back. I took every opportunity that was presented to me thereafter, and to really try to represent wrestling, especially women in wrestling, in the best possible way.
And amen to that. I really like hearing mind states like that, because you don't come across too many like that in the business now, or at least trainers aren't teaching the correct way.
Right. And I'm very fortunate to have been trained by people who are very well respected and have that old school mentality towards the business, where some of those things that are unfortunately being lost as wrestling progresses and changes with the times. However, I do believe that there are some things and characteristics of wrestling that should be timeless and should always be taught and should always be upheld and respected, especially if you say that you love the wrestling business.
Amen. There seems to be a lack of respect for the business now, because it's so exposed and kayfabe's no longer alive and well. It seems like now, because there's more of a spot fest and people just trying to get themselves over and not paying attention to the story they're telling. There seems to be a lot of this going on. How do you deal with that? How do you counter that or avoid it?
I think that it's just a reality that has become part of wrestling. After something has been along for so long, someone is going to seek to try to change it in a way that they feel is better or improves upon it. And, there are some tremendous athletes that go out there and put matches together that unfortunately are just move after move or spot after spot. And are unable, although their athletic ability is there, to tell a story. And that is how I was trained, and that is what I remember watching, and what resonated with me as a young person watching wrestling was that, I was getting invested in the story that I was watching. Yes, wrestling was definitely present, but what the good versus people that was being presented to me really stood out in my mind more so than necessarily a spot or a finishing move or, unless it added to the story.
Right.
Course. But, that's not something that I would remember necessarily. But the great feud, the great run-in, the great screw jobs, if you will, all of those things are what stick out in my mind. And I believe truly that the real fans, that's what they want. Even though so many are interested in that, they continuously crave more wrestling and more and more and more because they're not being satiated by the fact that they're being emotionally invested in what they're seeing.
Right, right, and that's a very important thing because say like 70s and 80s, even the 90s too. I mean, you still had matches that captivated you and made you feel. It touched you, and nowadays it's still looking for that.
Right, and it's really sad because there are so many veterans that I encounter throughout my travels, and I listen to them speak about the territory days, or the golden age of wrestling, and how different things were then, and how that emotion, in some ways was dangerous for, especially if you were healed, and how it could also be so forced as a babyface, and those things that they were able to do in the ring and outside of the ring, and just the atmosphere of the unknown. I truly am saddened that so many people disregard that as something that has to stay in the past. If more people took personal accountability for their part in protecting kayfabe and making sure that they are responsible for protecting the business, because it is a responsibility that comes with being a professional wrestler, it is definitely, something I would think more people would want to participate in defending. But unfortunately, not everyone's being trained in that way. You have a lot of people who like to play wrestler and not actually be a wrestler, or people who look at it as a hobby. And whatever your goals in wrestling may be, of course they should be respected. However, there are those who are trying to take it to the next level and who are making this their career choice. And there are those that we need to respect who have done it before us. And so it is our responsibility to not just read wrestling or make it into a joke and to take it seriously, because what we're doing is not just for us. It's a legacy of those who have come before us and those who will go after us. And for the fans, that legacy should be upheld for them. They should not be cheated out of a true wrestling experience where they feel exhausted because the emotional roller coaster has physically taken them to, peaks and valleys that they haven't known.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Let me ask you a question now. With all that being said, now your character that you go by and that we see you as is the Southern SheHulk. How did you come up with that character for wrestling? Were you a fan of the Hulk series, or was it just something that was suggested to you?
I was actually always a fan of comic books and that world, and the She-Hulk of the South kind of evolved from the connection that I had with the character that Stan Lee and Mishima created of Jennifer Walters. Um, she's very, in her personal life, she is quiet. It's changed over time, but she's sympathetic, and in her life of not being a She-Hulk, she's unassuming. She goes about her day, she's very intelligent, helpful and caring. But once that beast is unleashed, she turns into something that is empowered and strong, and she always tries to do what's right, regardless of if she's a beast or not. And in a way to that, um, really having that in my personal life, I am very quiet. I prefer to be training or reading a book or, hanging with a few small, very close friends,
Mm-hmm.
uh, small number of close friends, rather than, my young days being at a party or something of that nature. And in personal life as well, if I am pushed to that certain point, you won't like what you see, because I'm very forgiving. I do give a lot of chances, but at some point, everybody has to stand to speak out against something that is not correct. And so connecting with that and being from the South, I'm originally from Houston, Texas, so being raised in the South as a Southern girl and being brought up as a Southern belle, merging these two unlikely worlds, and this part of myself with this inner part of myself that wrestling has brought out, um, it it really is so close to home. And to say that it's the best character is the one that is one who is very close to you, but you can amplify and magnify to speak to others. And I believe there are a lot of She-Hulk, out there. I think that everybody's got a little She-Hulk or a little Hulk in them, and for me to be able to inspire and represent that to whoever, that is something that I would love to continue to do.
And we hope you do. It's always fun to see something new, and the fact that I saw that you use the Hulk to incorporate into what you do. That's what made you stand out the most to me as well, because I applaud and I seek out creativity, because the wrestling business needs more unique, original creativity. We need
Right.
more of
Yeah.
it. So when you see things like, the Southern SheHulk or other people who are incorporating it still shows hope for the business.
Yeah.
So let me ask you another question. What does it take, or what, there's always a locker room leader. There's always somebody in the locker room you can go to for constructive advice, or someone that came before you, like you said earlier. Is it harder to be a female locker room leader now, or is it easier?
I don't know if I would look at myself as a locker room leader. I was trained. You shake everyone's hand, you go into the locker room, you get in your area, and you sit down and you shut your mouth. So I don't know. I'm still kind of, attempting to follow that. So I don't know if that would qualify me as a locker room leader. But I would say that being a female and trying to be in that position in and of itself is challenging. Although the climate for females in wrestling is changing so much and it's so great, there's still certain places that I go where it is extremely uncool. And what I mean by that is, like, there wouldn't have been a woman in that particular locker room. So it is a little bit more of a struggle and a little bit more of a proving why I deserve to be there amongst these older gentlemen who have seen and done so much in the business, and who may have, worked their way up through the territory days, and are looking at me not only as a greenhorn, but as a woman.
Right.
So two of those things, you do have to have a level of um, confidence and understanding of that things are different, and as they change, people are going to respond to that a little bit differently. So, and I'm usually in a lot of mixed locker rooms where I'm one of the only, two girls in there, because there's only one lady on the card, unless I'm at a place, combat, which runs in Winston-Salem and the Gibsonville area. And so that's an entirely female card. And I myself am not a locker room leader in that instance, because we have women like Jessica Havoc, or Nevaeh, or Solo Darling, or Taylor Hendricks. These young women who have gone other places and done other things, especially at the higher level. And so I look to them as the leaders in that situation. And I default to their judgment and their experience in that way.
And that sounds like the right way to go to. You go to those who came before you.
Yes, and that's a big thing that I do feel like some of the younger wrestlers, and by younger I mean the ones who started after my particular point in wrestling, are missing out. Is that the people who came before you know. There is no way that coming through this business and coming in as a person of just an outsider and just watching. Whether you may have been around it because of a family member or going to shows, once you actually are a part of the business, your unique experience is still measured by when you started. And those who have come before you have done more, put more miles on the road, had more matches, more experience, been to these upper level federations, they are the ones that you should be defaulting to help you get to those levels. And 92% of the time, the vets are there to help you. There have been so many times I've been intimidated to go and speak to a veteran who would turn out to be very welcoming and very gracious and very constructive, in a way that I would not have realized. And of course, there's that 1% that they don't really have time for you, and that's fine. Not everybody needs to pay it forward, but I truly appreciate and cherish the ones who do, because I've learned so much just by talking and approaching these veterans with that level of respect of, hey, you know what I don't know. Please give me whatever you're willing to give me in terms of teaching me about this, because it's always continuous in terms of learning. You're never going to be able to know it all. And, I was told by a former NWA national champion, Lou Marconi, when you think you know it all, hang up your boots, because you have reached a point where nobody can break through you, and you never want to be unteachable.
Yeah.
That's something that a lot of people, I feel, are lacking. Yes, you may be able to do wonderful spots and have this great athleticism, but if you don't even understand the basic respect that comes with the wrestling business, and that respect that you pay to those who came before you, then I don't really look at you as someone who is going to be able to excel quickly and in a way that is lasting. And that's what the trick is. Because conversely, when you're able to do all these wonderful athletic things, your body is enduring all of those things.
Yeah.
And so what happens if God forbid you get injured or you do some crazy move and you hurt someone else and injure them and end their career. That's something that will follow you for the rest of your career, whether it was intentional or not. And so I don't feel that people take into consideration that the reason that the storytelling is also so important is because you're trying to save yourself. If you want to have a long career, you want to actually be able to participate
Yeah.
in it. I've yet to see someone who is quadriplegic able to do the things that we're able to do in the ring. But if you use your body so much, that's a very real possibility. And so many guys and young ladies don't take into consideration that being able to hybrid those two things is not only good for the business, but it's a good business move in terms of you having that longevity within your own career. I'm sorry that kind of went off on you.
Oh no, that's quite all right. I mean, we have a wide listening base, and we have our female audience out there, and I want to make sure they're getting just as much out of this as the men do.
That's good.
We one of the reasons and things that you just said just now is one of the values that we hold here at TurnbucklePad is that we like to speak with workers from all walks of the squared circle because you never know who's listening and who's inspiring or dreaming of being a wrestler. And if they're going to do it, they need to have the correct educational value of it. And you can get that from people such as yourself and many other guests we've had previously.
Even being truthful, we're still respecting the business, but being truthful. To anyone who has ever, I am not, anyone to be anyone. I'm still out here trying to make a name for myself and make something that I will be able to do for the rest of my life. But I know that I am able to be taught, and I'm really taking advantage of what I'm learning from these incredible people in the business. And one thing that was told to me that I always told to anyone interested in being a part of the business is it's going to take sacrifice. This business is sacrifice, period, end of story.
Yeah,
every give more than you receive, and you have to be okay with that. You have to understand that because the day when it becomes equal and then surpasses, you need to be ready for that as well. But you lose so much in terms of what you think is important. There were people in my life before I started wrestling that I couldn't imagine not talking to every day, or I couldn't imagine being around. And as they got further and further into the business and really was living my dreams, they're calling me Hollywood and saying I'm doing this and that. That's not the case. If you want something, you are going to have to cut a lot of things out of your life that you've done previously. You're going to have to change your lifestyle. And for me, I made a conscious decision that I was going to live wrestling. And so that meant that I had to cut out what I used to do in order to be successful. And I made the decision that that's what I was going to do. Now, there are a lot of people who are living that fine line of trying to do both, and that's okay. If you can make that work, great. But I've never been one to believe that you can give 100% of yourself when you're standing, between the thresholds, so to speak.
Yeah.
You're either going to go all in or you're not. And if you go all in, you have to realize you may lose friends, you lose money, relationships, and I've been fortunate enough that people that do support me are people that I've known for a while, and the ones who were unsupportive were not people that, will be too missed in terms of not being able to add or support me, because that's the one thing that wrestling is lacking in all facets, that you hear from wrestlers all over the place. It's hard to get support for wrestling,
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah.
So it is very, very challenging to find a good base, but if you do, then you hang on to them and you treat them with the respect that they deserve.
Very, very true. Well, Ronnie, we got a question for you that we ask all our guests. And this is going to be fun because we're going to aim this one for the female audience out there. Yes, ladies, I didn't forget about you. What advice would you give to a lady who wants to get into the wrestling business or who is new in the wrestling business?
Learn your craft. Know your roots. Because we as women have a long history in this business that a lot of people aren't aware of, and a lot of people don't take the time to research. If you haven't taken the time to figure out wrestlers, the female wrestlers who came within that same golden age of wrestling, then you're cheating yourself. If you haven't studied some of the women who have come before you, then you're cheating yourself, because there's such a rich history that existed before us, and it really is fantastic because there's so much more that you get to learn and experience once you start delving back into those years, prior, and learn, learn your craft because we are in the male-dominated sport, and if you are not able to hold your own, and if you are not able to truly get to the heart of what actual wrestling is, then you're kind of cheating everyone else who's attempting to do that. And unfortunately, there are going to be those who, again, are uncoachable and unteachable, and that won't resonate with them. And they might continue to use inappropriate, means for their success. But in terms of success, how successful are you if you had to do something distasteful for it?
Yeah.
How successful and how strong is your legacy if you had to compromise your values to get where you wanted to go? Everybody can get a piece of true success, I believe. It may not be the level that you were imagining for yourself, but that means that maybe there was something else that was going to take you further with that success. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense, and that's probably one of the best answers I've ever heard.
So I think those two things are very important, because I was speaking with a female wrestler a few months ago, and she was saying to me that she didn't really know how to research and to learn and to go back and study these things. And I was like, YouTube, the network, that all of these things are super easy to access, but if you don't know who Mildred Burke is, if you don't know who Mae Young is, if you don't know who Moonlight is, then you're kind of cheating yourself out of a very, and that's just the tip of the iceberg, out of a very rich history. And I was giving her suggestions of women who she should look at in terms of matching with her character, and she pretty much told me she didn't have time for that. And I was like, okay. So that type of thing, whether she gets much more success or not, eventually it will come back around, because how can you know where you're going if you don't know where you came from? If you don't know all of these women who had to put in so much effort, because the time that we're in is more accepting in terms of women doing things that men do, but back in those days, it was not.
No, it wasn't.
All. So you have to imagine and put yourself into the mindset of these women truly had to overcome some obstacles that I don't even have to think about these days. Maybe learning from them is something I should do, because whatever their tenacity was that got them through it, at some point you're going to need that type to get you through the business. It's brutal.
Yeah.
And it's challenging.
Yeah, you want to get in, go to the beginning.
Yeah. And if you want to know how to get through it, those are the people you should reach out to. And I wasn't saying that about her in any way, but there are different mindsets,
right?
With the business. And so knowing that it makes me a little sad, but at the same time, everyone has their own path and their own journey, and hopefully somewhere along the road that will change, for her. But for myself, try to be an advocate for doing that. Ricky Starr versus Carl Von Heck last night. Like, I just way back, like, and I would say that to people now in locker rooms, like, they would not know who any of those people are. Frank Gotch, like, they look at me like I'm crazy, and I'm like, but I'm doing what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah, you did your homework.
Right, you do your freaking homework.
Right.
This is not something that you can just jump into and expect to be successful, because it happens when you get to developmental. And one of the agents or the trainers is asking you about me. They're telling you to study this material, and you have no idea what they're talking about.
I understand.
You don't think that they're going to look at you, whether they, do anything about it is not the case. They're still going to look at you like, so how seriously do you take this? That can affect your positioning on the card. That can affect how fast you get through your training. You don't know. So it's important be well versed in every part of the business. That's how it started, and I feel like that's the way that it should continue to be.
Golden words and golden advice. Well, we're getting close. We're going to wrap this up, but before we go, how can the fans find you?
Well, on Facebook, it is /SheHulk of the South. That's my fan page. You can keep up with everywhere that I'm going to be. You can find me on Instagram at Glitterlicious. That's glitter, Licious. It's fierce, all one word. My Twitter is at Glitterlicious. You can find me on Snapchat at Roni Nicole and the letter R, all one word, lowercase. And you can also email me for any booking or inquiries about ordering A5 pins or t-shirts at RoniNicoleR@gmail.com. And anyone in the Charlotte area, I will be wrestling on Sunday, and please check out my fan page for the address and the location of the show.
Awesome. Well, Roni, we really thank you for taking the time out to come speak with us. Fans, I really hope you took this in, and the people that I'm speaking with, these are the people that know what they're doing. These are the people that are accomplished, and they work hard to make wrestling what it is today. So if you're thinking about being a wrestler, and if you're from the female percentage of listening, listen to Roni. She knows what she's talking about.
Well, thank you, Mike, and it was such an honor to be on the show. I really appreciate it.
It was so nice having you. All right, fans. Well, I'm your host, Mike Stover, and this has been my guest, the Southern She-Hulk, Roni Nicole, and we're out.